Hey everyone, Austin here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something really special, commemorating the 50th anniversary of the movie Jaws. Legendary movie. I'm refinishing and wood burning a custom design into this 1970s style skateboard that I was given by my friend Rob. This design will be fully inspired by the iconic imagery that struck fear in all landwalkers when Jaws first hit the silver screen and changed cinema forever. But simultaneously, as I'm laying out the composition, I want to analyze the elements of the story and the film that made the project just so successful. So I'm analyzing decisions both made about visual imagery, but as well as the story writing, the conflict, the tension, and the overall critique of what our fear surrounding the story says about us. So, well, before I start wood burning, I want to talk about the design concept real quick. This isn't just a retro styled skateboard, it's a storytelling canvas. When it's finished, it's a talking piece, something you pick up, feel, toss around, hand over to your friend, put wheels on it, ride it. It's a conversation starter. Uh, sure, I could just burn in the classic Jaws poster, with the girl on top and the big shark underneath. Everyone would recognize it. But what would that do, for the conversation around the art? What does that tell you about the story? Not much. So I took it that the art needs to draw directly from the powerful and haunting visuals from the movie. Um, and then I was going to use like their correlation to one another to be deliberate in kind of delivering or developing visual tension in the art on the board itself. Um, I'm considering most of these images I'm using to be emotional triggers. So there should be a level of empathy, I think, when looking at these kind of depictions of scenes. I take it as like a curious wondering of what you would do in that situation, or what it might feel like just to stare into the black, soulless eyes of a evil entity like the shark. So, but I wanted the organization of the imagery in the design to represent the natural story progression of, say, a good thriller or even like a satire film. Reading the board, we go left to right from the nose to the tail, right? And the imagery starts out seemingly normal at the front of the board with the barrels in the foreground and the orca silhouetted in the distance. As the design kind of moves along and progresses towards the tail of the board, the images become more and more abstracted visually. Doing this on purpose to kind of represent how things start going really to shit towards the end of the film. As the images become more abstracted, also they're also kind of continuously gaining like weight of fear, like a heavier fear with each one. It's clear that the silhouette of Chrissy Watkins swimming at the stern end of the board depicts the most vulnerable of any of the characters shown on the board. Well, at least in this design, right? Uh, it is also the only visuals shown from the point of view of the shark, which I thought was pretty interesting. Well, I guess not the only one in the movie, but only one on my design. So, but let's start talking vulnerability again. So, Chrissy Watkins showing the most vulnerable. Shark coming up from underneath. She has no idea. It's dark out, dark water. I mean, that set up the scary, that set up the fear right from the get-go. We jump in medias race. Come on. And now as we move more back towards the front of the board, the next kind of jumble of idea I have is Captain Quint. I find him to be the second most vulnerable, and this is due to his own character flaw, right? The trauma he suffers, kind of surrounding his past, right? Uh, Surrounding sharks and open ocean, made known to us by his incredible monologue about the sinking of the USS Indianapolis. Next, we have Hooper in the shark cage, and I find him less vulnerable than Quint, even though he's in the water with the shark. He's less vulnerable because of his deep understanding and love for the nature of sharks. Right? He's the educated one. He's the scientist. He's studied everything about sharks. Right? He doesn't hate them like Quint does. So we have to kind of trust that he knows how to deal with this situation. He knows how to get out of it, right? Whereas Quint is just the hothead standing at the end of the bow with the with a gun, right? So they go about it very differently, and this kind of sets up a nice little tension between the characters as well, but also just tells us a lot about them, right? And in turn tells us about human nature in general, you know. And then uh, we have Chief Brody in the center of the board, and this is perfect because he's our hero, right? He's the one that really changes the most. You know, he won't even go in the water at the beach. He lives on an island, won't even go in the water at the beginning, and then towards the end, you know, he's swimming to shore, right? So I mean, he goes through the biggest character change out of any of them, and I think that's what makes him our hero, which therefore makes Quint has to be our anti-hero. I mean, being the anti-hero, he's putting his life on the line, but not for the greater good of the island, the people, the civilization. He's doing it for himself. He's doing it because of his history with stranded at sea, the sharks. Like it's personal to him. This is war. This is vendetta to him. So that's what makes him the anti-hero, whereas Chief Brody's out here just to save the day, right? Well, the process of burning in these visuals is it's like carving or etching into the wood, um, both physically, but also we're dealing with value. So this means I can use this to my advantage, right? So I can adjust the heat settings to achieve very deep and dark voids in the wood, um, and as I'm doing this, I'm thinking of like the fear, right? The fear of the movie. Where is the fear? Where's fear most concentrated, right? And it has to be in the jaws of the shark. So I make the deepest burn in the pit of the shark's mouth, which allows me to shade in a rough suggestion of the oxygen tank in its mouth that Brody's going to shoot, right? So then that also helps establish kind of time frame for the scene here. Um, every stroke of the burner here also needs to be very deliberate, because you have to pull it in the right direction, or else the texture can be lost. It can fail. Um, if you can lose the contrast, right? Which would give us too much exposure, just creating a flat composition. So it's very important to have these crazy dark black areas, very light areas, but also the textures, right? So the way that I'm pulling the wood burner tip. So sometimes it's a chaotic kind of movement. Sometimes it's a nice long line, right? And this kind of stuff make is very important, right? Because the line work is just it's the only element I have here with a wood burner other than shading to kind of show this contrast of emotion and tension in the images. Um, so then I kind of think of it like big, long, straight, hard lines. I think of those as kind of representing order, structure, civilization, right? But then these deep, dark, swirling, kind of chaotic, organic lines, I find those to kind of represent the chaotic nature of life, right? Or just like the animalistic kind of nature of it, right? So that's a happy contrast where you kind of see, we're kind of seeing civilization, society, societal norms, or just industry, things that are made on land coming out to a place they almost don't belong, right? Because like everything out here, the shark is winning. I mean, the boat starts sinking. I mean, people are getting eaten. The shark is winning, and so the characters are losing faith in what is what is supposed to be our safe, like our safe space, right? Like you're on a boat, you should feel safe, but this shark is putting holes in the boat. So, oh, and let's talk about the eye on the shark right there too, because Quint says it's awesome little part of the monologue when he's doing his USS Indianapolis, and he says, the thing about a shark, he's got lifeless eyes, black eyes, like a doll's eyes. When he comes at you, he doesn't seem to be living until he bites you. And those black eyes roll over white, and then you hear the terrible high pitched screaming. The ocean turns red, and despite all your pounding, your hollering, those sharks come in and rip you to pieces. Oh, it's so good, right? It's so good. And so like that idea of like the doll's eyes, like it's soulless. There's nothing to it, right? Just a monster, a villain. But then when that like it something changes, right? It shows up to get you, it changes. Now it sees you. It's what like it's just a really cool kind of feeling. So on this board, like I tried to real simply show that change. I wanted to show the black as it's rolling over white as it's coming to Brody, and he knows it. So that's also just a tiny little bit of a example of building tension there visually. Jaws wasn't just a thriller. So sure, it made you afraid to go in the water, but it did so much more. It tapped into America's post-war anxiety. It made us question authority. How can the mayor, put the like financial aspects of the town, how can he deem that more important than the safety of its civilians, right? Um, and then like the media, right? So how about how the townspeople, they refuse to believe that they're in danger, right? They try to blame Chrissy's death on a boating accident or propeller, or she drowned when clearly she didn't, right? When Hooper shows up, I mean, he tells them straight up it was a shark. But then like how about the kids, they defile the town's billboard with graffiti, right? That's kind of hinting that the gossip around town is that the shark is a joke or it's nothing to take seriously, right? Amity Island is just basically a straightforward critique of American mid-century culture. It's like the perfect little town, Pleasantville. Um, and it's just the drive people have to live a safe, simple life, right? Kind of follows the story arc of like a dystopian society where everything is perfect, but only in the denial that pain and suffering exist, or the pain and suffering exist in other places offshore, not Amity Island. So when Spielberg made Jaws, he wasn't just making a movie about a shark, right? That wouldn't have worked as well, but he was constructing a metaphor. The shark is fear, primal, unseen, unstoppable. It fights back, but more than that, it became a canvas for ideas, right? So like post-war paranoia we mentioned. Well, how about this like masculine bravado and courage of the hero, right? How about the tension between animalistic world, nature and human civilization, and corruption of authority, and out of sight, out of mind mentality, really. Um, so let's look at Brody, Quint, and Hooper. Three very different men, all facing the same monster. You've got the working class war veteran, right? You got the educated liberal scientist, and then you got just the regular everyman, Brody, right? The chief. Um, this boat with the three of them kind of becomes a microcosm of America. These three guys that have nothing in common, confronting the unknown, trying to work together, but then everything just falls apart at the end. It's like that's just classic getting mashed up. I mean, that's America, right? So, and then there's a satire. So, you could Google it. AI is going to tell you Jaws isn't a satire, and that's fine. We don't have to call it a satire, but it has satirical elements, and that is for sure. I will stand on that, right? Um, let's say, all right, so it's not funny like a satire would be, although there are a couple little aspects that kind of give it like its own kind of dark humor sometimes. You know, we mentioned the mayor's greed and denial. Those are biting critiques of political negligence, the townspeople's hysteria. That's got to be just an absolute reflection that we overreact, we underprepare for real dangers in life. Well, now with the wood burning complete, we're sealing in the artwork with a clear gloss finish. That's going to kind of give like glossy white highlight edges to any of the little dimples and kind of nooks that have been made into the wood. But then also just a nice glaze on the maple itself that's going to kind of give it like the Chris Craft kind of feel of a polished wooden boat, right? And then for the top of the board, I wanted to carry on this theme of a boat, or it being a boat, or uh, some type of marine theme, right? So that's why I went with this marine foam decking that kind of goes on the decks of boats, right? Meant for you to be able to walk around a boat barefoot and still have pretty good grip. So that kind of made this board able to ride barefoot, which I thought was really cool. And yeah, I just love how it turned out. It's just super soft, smooth, and sleek, and in a way is just very contrasting to not only the design I did, the wood burning on it, but also the whole film we've been talking about, right? Not a whole lot in that movie is smooth and sleek and easy going. So it's kind of funny that visually that's not the case, but as soon as you touch it, it's yeah, I got it right here. As soon as you touch it, it's just, I mean, it is nice. It just feels right. You just want to ride it. Smooth, nice. Let's do this. So this board isn't just a piece of memorabilia. I mean, it's a tribute, It's a tribute to Spielberg, to 1975, to the way stories shape culture. Let's see. And, just how art, whether on screen or on a skateboard, carry those stories forward and inspire future artists to come. Well, I'd like to thank you for sticking around on this journey with me. If you enjoyed this mashup of classic cinema and retro craftsmanship, make sure to give this video a like and hit subscribe, because I got a lot more boards to make. And I'd also love if you would throw a comment down if you had any ideas of things I could put on my next tribute board, or even just your favorite Jaws moments. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed everything, and I'll see you next time. Cheers, friends.